Alright guys, well, for our last module, strategy application, you notice I don't have anything up on the board. There really isn't anything new for us to do. This has been a semester, this has been an interesting semester for sure. But we've looked at a lot of different strategies for tackling reading. I don't assume that you liked them all, but I do hope that you found one or two that you liked in there. Now I want you to think ahead to your future semesters, whether it's this next semester or the semesters after that. Not all classes are the same, and you know that. Different teachers have different styles, different subjects have different requirements or ways of learning them. And so what I've given you on this assignment is a few different scenarios. I've described a few different kinds of classes and asked, so if you were in a class like this, what would be your success approach? What would you do to study the material, to learn the stuff, or just to succeed in that class? Because as you've noticed, different classes require a different approach. I might have an English class where my entire grade is based on 3 papers, and I can otherwise, sort of stay at home. I have other classes where I have to go every time because what's really important is all the details of the different lectures. And so there's just different ways of approaching classes, as you've seen, and so I've given you a few different scenarios and asked you, how would you approach a class like this? What would you do to ensure your own success? And then at the end, I've asked you, I don't know why I'm looking at this, and at the end I've asked you to come up with your own scenario. And I'm guessing it's going to be something like, you're in a reading class, halfway through the semester, a virus hits and shuts down the entire world. What do you do? Now you can't be that vague about it, I want you to, when you're developing your own scenarios, I want you to look at the scenarios I developed and give me those kind of details. And then tell me what your approach would be. You don't have to give me a scenario that actually describes a class that you're in this semester or in a previous semester. Just think about the kind of things you might be faced with in your college career. Describe a class like that and ask, what would be the best way to handle this? How would I approach the class? And I have asked you for a few different things, like what are your in-class strategies? And that's stuff like sitting up front, finding someone to take notes with or whatever. If your in-class strategy is to show up late, sit in the back and stay on your phone the whole time, you might want to rethink that. What are your out-of-class strategies? Some classes required me, anyway, to study a lot outside of class, more than in some other classes, right? So would I form a study group? Am I going to do this for a half hour or an hour a day? For me, for example, math, if I didn't study it every day, I couldn't do anything. Whereas in history, I could kind of brush up before class, do a little bit of studying during the week, and it just wasn't that kind of ever-present necessity that I study for it. So my point is, you're going to have to take different approaches to different classes. The module that you're working on gives you a scenario, asks you what's your in-class approach, what's your out-of-class approach, what's your reading approach. Some classes are very text-dependent, and it's really, really important that I master the text. And so, for example, in, say, a biology class, for me, one of the most important things in there were Freyer models, was the vocabulary stuff. And for me, visualizing like in a Freyer model was a very helpful thing to do. So I don't know what answers you're going to give. And it's not like there's any right or wrong answers. The only way you can really kind of fall short here is to be super vague and not really give me anything, like if you say, my strategy is going to be to show up to class and do all the work. Well, I mean, sure. You got anything more specific to go on than that? You should. So think over the scenarios I've given you. Think about what is the best approach for someone, maybe not even you, but for someone else, if they really want to do their best to maximize their performance in there, what should they do or what could they do? In class, out of class, and with the textbook. And then the last one is I invite you to write your own scenario and tell us what you think would be a good way for you to tackle a class like that. So there's really not a lot to it. There's no chapter that's associated with it. This isn't something you're going to apply to a textbook. This is something you're going to do on your own. This strategy will work best, or this module will work best, if you take some time to think through your answers. Don't just give me right off the top of your head, right? Go ahead and do that, write down a couple notes, but then think it through and come up with what you think are good, specific, direct answers to address the different situations in the different scenarios I've given you. As always, if you have any trouble, please give me a call. I do hope that the rest of your classes are winding up all right and that you have a really successful end of semester. If there's anything I can do to help out with that, please let me know and I will do my best to help you. Until then, I'll see you later.